Well, I was 3 years old when I got into acting, so at that point in my life, it was about I wanted to be the little girl to brush Barbie's hair on the commercials. I just thought that was the coolest thing.
In the world of Hollywood, where child stars often shine brightly only to fade too soon, Michelle Trachtenberg defied the odds for nearly 3 decades. Her journey from a detergent commercial at the age of 3 to becoming a beloved staple of teen drama and cult television was not just a story of fame, it was a story of transformation, tenacity, and talent that resonated across generations. Michelle Christine Trachtenberg was born on October 11, 1985, in the vibrant borough of Brooklyn, New York. Raised in the Sheepshead Bay neighborhood by Jewish immigrant parents, her mother, Lana, a bank manager, and her father, Michael, a fiber optics engineer, Michelle grew up in a household that valued both intellect and creative expression. From the beginning, there was something magnetic about her. She wasn't just another cute kid with a spark. She had a natural presence that cameras seemed to recognize even before she could read her lines. Her first professional role came at the tender age of 3 in a whisk detergent commercial. Most toddlers are still learning to form full sentences, but Michelle had already taken her first steps into the entertainment industry, and from there was no looking back. Commercial after commercial, appearance after appearance, her face became a familiar one on American television long before most children her age had even started school. Harriet the Spy was more than just a box office success, earning over $26 million there. It became a cultural touchstone for 90s kids. And in Michelle Trachtenberg, a generation found a new kind of heroine, smart, independent, slightly awkward, and unapologetically herself. But Michelle wasn't done. Not even close. In the years that followed, she appeared in projects ranging from Inspector Gadget to Can't Be Heaven, seamlessly navigating between television and film. She popped up on Law & Order, Clarissa Explains It All, and even hosted children's educational programs like Truth or Scare. While many child stars hit a wall in their teens, Michelle used that time to explore. She didn't rush toward more mature roles or force a reinvention. Instead, she allowed herself to evolve naturally, growing with her audience, a rare move that kept her relevant and relatable. Then, in 2000, Michelle joined the cast of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And once again, everything changed. When Buffy ended in 2003, she faced a new challenge: the transition from teen roles to adult ones. This is where many child actors stumble. But Michelle once again defied expectations. She starred in the 2004 comedy Eurotrip, playing the quirky, wild Jenny. The film was a sharp contrast from her earlier work, raunchy, fast-paced, and unapologetically outrageous. It showed a new side of her, comedic timing, self-awareness, and an ability to hold her own in a cast filled with chaos. While the movie was divisive among critics, it gained cult status over the years, and Michelle's performance was a big reason why. Between 2006 and 2010, Michelle maintained a steady presence in both film and television. From dramas like Beautiful Ohio and The Dive from Clausen's Pier, to appearances in House, Criminal Minds, and 6 Feet Under, she continued to prove that she could adapt to any role, any genre, any tone. But it was her next major TV role that would once again define a generation. In 2008, Michelle stepped into the high society chaos of Gossip Girl as Georgina Sparks, a scheming, unpredictable, utterly magnetic antagonist who stole every scene she appeared in. Georgina wasn't just a villain, she was a force of nature. Manipulative, intelligent, and always one step ahead, she brought a necessary chaos to the pristine world of the Upper East Side. Michelle played her with relish, a twinkle in the eye, a knowing smirk, and a sense that you never quite knew what she was going to do next. Michelle's talent wasn't just in the characters she played, it was in the way she inhabited them. Whether it was Harriet sneaking through alleyways with a notebook, Dawn clutching to her sister for survival, or Georgina plotting her next chess move, Michelle gave them all something real, a soul, a spark, and maybe that's why her passing, at just 39 years old, has felt so deeply personal to so many. Because for 3 decades, she wasn't just on our screens, she was in our lives. In our childhood memories, our teen obsessions, and our quiet, personal reflections. She wasn't just a child star. She wasn't just a teen actress. She was a cultural touchstone, someone who grew with us, changed with us, and in many ways, helped shape the stories we came to love. Michelle Trachtenberg lived a life in the spotlight, yes, but she also lived it with dignity, complexity, and purpose. And though that light has now dimmed, its warmth remains in the hearts of those who watched her grow, perform, and evolve into something rare, a true artist who never stopped being herself. Michelle's introduction to show business was remarkably early. By the age of 3, she was already on screen, appearing in television commercials. She reportedly starred in over 100 commercials before landing her first recurring television role. While commercial work doesn't carry the glamour of Hollywood films, it provided a steady stream of income during her childhood years and established her reputation as a reliable, charismatic young performer. But it was Harriet the Spy in 1996 that put her on the financial map. As the lead in a Paramount Pictures production, Michelle reportedly earned in the low six-figure range for the role. For a child actress, that was significant. The film grossed over $26 million at the box office, and more importantly, opened doors for the next phase of her career, recurring roles in television, voice work, and feature films. From Inspector Gadget to Can't Be Heaven, her income remained consistent through the late 90s, though it wasn't headline-making. Still, for a teenager who had built a name in both mainstream media and children's entertainment, Michelle had carved out a niche, and the foundation for future financial stability was already being laid. In 2000, Michelle landed the role of Dawn Summers on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. She would appear in 66 episodes between 2000 and 2003. While exact salary figures are not publicly confirmed, co-star Charisma Carpenter was reported to earn $35,000 per episode in the later seasons. Assuming Michelle's pay was in a similar range, especially given her position as a series regular, it's likely she earned between $2.3 to $2.5 million over the show's run. But the story doesn't stop there. Like many actors in syndicated series, Michelle benefited from residuals, payments earned whenever Buffy was rerun, streamed, or purchased. While streaming residuals are infamously less lucrative than those from traditional syndication, long-running shows like Buffy, with a global fanbase and cult following, have likely provided Michelle with steady income over the years. She didn't just act in Buffy, she became part of a cultural movement. That kind of relevance translates into longevity in income. Merchandise, DVD collections, fan conventions, and licensing deals, even if indirectly, all helped sustain her presence in the industry's financial ecosystem. After a series of smaller film and TV roles, Michelle experienced a career resurgence in 2008 when she joined Gossip Girl as Georgina Sparks. Originally introduced as a recurring character, Georgina's impact on the storyline quickly turned her into a fan favorite. Michelle would go on to appear in 28 episodes of the series, spanning from 2008 to 2012, and reprise the role in the 2021 reboot. While per-episode salaries varied greatly depending on contract tiers, lead stars like Blake Lively were rumored to earn over $60,000 per episode. Even if Michelle's role was more limited in screen time, recurring characters often pull in $20,000 to $30,000 per episode. That would place her earnings from Gossip Girl between $500,000 to $800,000, not including residuals from streaming platforms like HBO Max and Netflix, where the show remains popular. Georgina Sparks was not just a character, she was a brand. Fans loved to hate her, quoted her lines, and even styled themselves after her look. That kind of engagement translates into lasting recognition and revenue. While television was the cornerstone of Michelle's income, her film career added important boosts. Movies like Eurotrip 2004, Ice Princess 2005, Black Christmas 2006, 17, Again 2009, and Cop Out 2010 came with moderate paydays, ranging between $100,000 to $300,000 depending on screen time and billing. While not blockbuster deals, these films kept her in rotation with audiences and studios alike. Her role in Ice Princess, a Disney feature, was especially significant. The film underperformed at the box office but gained popularity in home, entertainment, and streaming. And given Disney's lucrative merchandising and licensing ecosystem, her performance in that space likely continued to bring in small residual checks over time. She also starred in Mysterious Skin, a critically acclaimed indie drama. While independent films don't typically pay much, this role was a turning point for Michelle's artistic credibility. And while it may not have enriched her bank account directly, It helped sustain her career during a time when many former child stars faded into obscurity. In the 2010s, Michelle adapted to the changing landscape of media. She took on voice roles in the animated comedy series Robot Chicken and was involved in online series like Humankind of, Facebook Watch, and Guidance. She also hosted the true crime series Meet, Marry, Murder in 2021. While these roles may not have commanded the kind of salary network TV once offered, they demonstrated her ability to evolve and stay relevant. The income from these gigs may have been lower in raw numbers, but they extended her reach into younger digital native audiences and diversified her earnings. Voice acting, in particular, offers unique financial benefits, less time commitment, flexible schedules, and the possibility of royalties for character-based content. For someone navigating health challenges later in life, it may have also provided a gentler work option that still allowed her to do what she loved. Perform. Michelle wasn't one to broadcast her material possessions, but one asset stood out. In 2001, she purchased a home in Sherman Oaks, California for $850,000. Located in one of LA's most desirable suburban neighborhoods, the home appreciated significantly in value over the years. At the time of her death, the property was estimated to be worth between $2 million and $3 million. Whether she owned it outright or had refinanced it in later years is unclear, but this home represented both emotional and financial stability, a sanctuary in an industry known for instability. She never flipped it for profit, never boasted about upgrades on social media. It was, by all accounts, her primary residence, a quiet place where she lived, worked, and battled her health struggles away from the camera's glare. In the days following her death, questions naturally arose about her estate. Who would inherit her assets? Was there a will? As of now, no public will has been disclosed, but those closest to Michelle included her mother, Lana, her sister Irene, and her longtime partner, Jay Cohen, a prominent talent agent and head of film finance at Gersh, the agency that represented Michelle since 2014. With no children or confirmed dependents, it is widely assumed that her estate will be split between her family and her partner. If she had a trust or private will, which many in her position do, the details may never become public. But the financial legacy she left behind is more than enough to offer security and comfort to those she loved. What's striking about Michelle's financial story is not the scale of her wealth, but the substance of it. She didn't build empires, launch makeup lines, or headline Vegas shows. She built her fortune through work, steady, honest, meaningful work. She lived through the age of child star burnout. She survived the era of teen actress exploitation. And she adapted to a rapidly changing industry with grace and professionalism. Her fortune may not have made headlines, but it tells a quiet, beautiful story of endurance. She earned enough to live comfortably, enough to support herself through medical treatments, enough to own a home, give back to her loved ones, and sustain a career that remained hers, not anyone else's idea of what it should be. In the end, Michelle Trachtenberg's financial legacy is not just in the numbers. It's in what she stood for, a working actress who loved her craft, honored her past, and lived within her means. She was never chasing fame for the sake of it. She was building something that could last, and it did. The mark of a great performer isn't always measured by how many awards they win or the size of their audience. It's in how long they stay with us after the credits roll. Michelle Trachtenberg didn't just act. She inhabited her roles so completely that for many of us, her characters blurred into memory, woven into the fabric of our own coming-of-age stories. She wasn't just on screen. She was a presence, a reflection, a comfort, and in more than one case, an icon. Across the span of her career, Michelle portrayed an eclectic mix of characters, each distinct yet threaded with a common quality: vulnerability balanced with strength. Whether she was playing a young girl with a notebook, a misunderstood supernatural sibling, or a conniving socialite wreaking havoc on the Upper East Side, Michelle never phoned it in. She gave each role nuance and complexity, and in doing so, created performances that still resonate decades later. Let's revisit the roles that didn't just define her career. They helped define a generation. Harriet M. Welsh in Harriet the Spy, 1996. The curious observer of the world. Michelle's breakthrough role at just 10 years old became more than a career milestone. It became a generational anthem. Harriet the Spy wasn't just a movie. It was a mirror for every kid who felt like an outsider, every child who dared to ask too many questions or carry a notebook like it was a shield. Harriet was messy, nosy, passionate, and real. She was the kind of kid who didn't fit the mold, and Michelle brought her to life with such natural intelligence and spunk that audiences instantly connected. It was more than child acting, it was child truth-telling. The film itself was groundbreaking in its own quiet way. It was one of the first mainstream children's movies to center on a smart, driven, slightly awkward girl without reducing her to sidekick status. Box office returns showed commercial success, but the film's cultural impact was far greater. For 90s kids, Harriet the Spy became an emotional rite of passage, and Michelle's face, thoughtful, earnest, defiant, was at the center of it all. Dawn Summers in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, 2000-2003, the sister we didn't know, we needed. When Michelle joined Buffy the Vampire Slayer in its 5th season, the fan base was skeptical. Introducing a younger sister to a character we'd watched grow and evolve for 4 seasons, it felt like a risky narrative move. But then came Michelle, and with her came Dawn Summers, fragile, confused, and at times deeply frustrating, but always real. What made Michelle's portrayal of Dawn so resonant was her willingness to lean into the character's flaws. She didn't try to make Dawn perfect. She made her relatable. Dawn's story, a mystical construct turned human, thrust into a chaotic world of death, demons, and high school trauma, was never easy to tell. But Michelle carried it with an emotional depth that grounded the supernatural in real-life angst. She made us care. Even in Dawn's most dramatic moments, Michelle never overplayed it. Her performance was vulnerable, restrained, and heartbreakingly human. More than that, her presence brought new dynamics to the Buffy narrative. She wasn't just the kid sister. She was the tether to Buffy's own humanity. Through Dawn, we saw a softer side of the show's lead. And through Michelle, we saw the emotional cost of being extraordinary in an ordinary world. It's no surprise that fans, even those hesitant at first, now view Dawn as essential to the series' emotional arc. Michelle's work in Buffy didn't just earn her new fans. It solidified her as a serious dramatic actress. Jenny in Eurotrip, 2004. The wild card with comic timing, If Buffy showcased Michelle's emotional depth. Eurotrip revealed her comedic instincts. The teen sex comedy genre has always walked a fine line between absurdity and poor taste, but Michelle's portrayal of Jenny, the sarcastic, free-spirited sister of the film's lead, brought a kind of grounded fun to the chaos. It wasn't a high art role, but it was a chance to see Michelle in a totally different light. She delivered her lines with a wink, played off her castmates effortlessly, and turned in a performance that was somehow both ridiculous and endearing. It takes a certain confidence to jump from supernatural teen drama to raunchy road trip comedy, and Michelle made the leap without a hitch. Over time, Eurotrip became a cult favorite, and Jenny's scenes, particularly the infamous brother-sister kiss moment, became viral fodder long before viral moments were even a thing. The movie may not have broken box office records, but it earned Michelle a new audience and proved that her range extended far beyond the drama-heavy scripts she'd been known for. Wendy Peterson in Mysterious Skin, 2004. A subtle witness, too. Pain released the same year as Eurotrip, Mysterious Skin could not have been more different. This haunting, emotionally raw indie film tackled themes of childhood trauma and identity in a way that was deeply affecting and often hard to watch. Michelle's role as Wendy Peterson was a supporting one, but it added layers of empathy to a story already filled with emotional weight. Wendy is a friend and confidant to one of the central characters, offering quiet support and a kind of moral compass in a film filled with ambiguity and pain. Michelle's performance was delicate, restrained, and deeply mature. There were no melodramatic breakdowns or theatrical displays, just presence, stillness, humanity. In a film that required emotional precision from everyone involved, Michelle held her own with ease. While not a box office success, Mysterious Skin received widespread critical acclaim, and its inclusion in Michelle's filmography further proved her dedication to meaningful, challenging work. Casey Carlisle in Ice Princess, 2005. The Dreamer. Who chose her passion in Ice Princess, Michelle played Casey Carlisle, a bookish teen torn between a future in science and a secret passion for figure skating. On paper, it was classic Disney fare. But Michelle brought so much authenticity to the role that it became something more. Casey wasn't a girl who had it all figured out. She was nervous, uncertain, battling expectations, both her own and those of the adults around her. And that's what made her so relatable. Michelle played her with sensitivity, capturing the insecurity of not knowing who you are, while still being brave enough to chase something that feels right. Ice Princess may not have been a critical darling, but its message struck a chord with its audience. The film quietly emphasized the importance of choosing passion over pressure, of carving your own path. Michelle didn't just act in Ice Princess, she inspired through it. The skating sequences, the emotional breakdowns, the triumph of standing on her own, all of it felt believable because Michelle believed it. Georgina Sparks in Gossip Girl, 2008, 2012, 2021. The scene-stealing antagonist we loved to hate then came Georgina. If Harriet was Michelle's entry and Dawn her depth, Georgina was her declaration. A masterclass in scene-stealing without ever overshadowing the main cast, Georgina Sparks was deliciously chaotic. A manipulative, unpredictable, morally gray firecracker who made every episode better. From her first appearance, Michelle turned Georgina into a pop culture sensation. She oozed confidence, delivered lines like a dagger cloaked in silk, and always kept the audience guessing. Was she sincere? Was she faking it? Did she even care? Georgina wasn't just comic relief or a plot twist machine. She was the human embodiment of every unspoken impulse: revenge, rebellion, reinvention. Michelle played her with the perfect blend of over-the-top mischief and calculated brilliance. The character became so popular that she was brought back multiple times throughout the series, and even featured in the reboot. In an ensemble filled with wealth, power, and betrayal, Georgina was the wild card, the X Factor, the queen of mayhem, and fans loved her for it. Across these roles and countless guest appearances, hosting gigs and voiceovers, Michelle Trachtenberg gave her audience something rare: honesty. She never tried to fit a type or chase a trend. She played the roles that spoke to her, that challenged her, that allowed her to grow. Her characters were messy, complicated, and human. She gave us awkwardness and anger, ambition and fear, laughter and loss. And in doing so, she became more than a performer. She became a companion to those growing up alongside her. For some, she was the reason they picked up a journal, like Harriet. For others, she was the one who made them feel seen in their teenage vulnerability, like Dawn. For many, she was just fun, a flash of chaos on a Monday night when Gossip Girl aired and Georgina walked in with a smirk and a plan. Michelle's impact can't be measured by box office numbers or critical reviews alone. It lives in the memories of fans who still quote her lines, still rewatch her scenes, still see parts of themselves in her work. She didn't chase fame. She chased truth. And in doing so, she left behind performances that will continue to inspire long after the lights go down. The camera lights may have gone dark, the Instagram feed frozen, and the scripts now left unopened. But Michelle Trachtenberg's presence, her energy, and her memory remain very much alive. In the days following her sudden death at just 39, an overwhelming wave of emotion swept across Hollywood, social media, and countless fans around the world. Because Michelle wasn't just another name in a cast list. She wasn't just a former child star, a TV villain, or a nostalgic figure from a simpler time. She was something much more intimate. She was familiar. The kind of actress who had quietly grown up with her audience, or maybe we had grown up with her. Either way, her absence felt deeply personal. And as the world tried to process that absence, what emerged was not just a string of headlines or obituaries. It was a chorus of remembrance, tender, honest, sometimes painful, but always full of love. Rosie O'Donnell, who had shared the screen with Michelle in Harriet the Spy, didn't just post a condolence. She shared her heart. "Heartbreaking," she wrote. "I loved her very much. She struggled the last few years. I wish I could have helped. It wasn't a press release. It wasn't a vague statement. It was a lament, the kind that only comes from someone who knew. David. Boreanaz, Michelle's co-star in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, echoed the shock and sorrow felt by many. So very sad, horrible news. R.I.P. and prayers to her and her family. Short, simple, but weighted. As if anything more would have hurt too much to say. Kim Cattrall, who worked with Michelle on Ice Princess, shared a photo of them together, smiling, glowing, mid-laugh. "Rest in peace, sweet Michelle," she wrote, adding a broken heart. Emoji. It was the kind of image that speaks louder than words, a frozen moment of light in a week filled with darkness. Even Ed Westwick, her Gossip Girl co-star, posted a tribute. A photo of Michelle as Georgina Sparks. No glitz, no caption needed except, "So sad to hear of the passing of Michelle Trachtenberg, sending prayers." And then there were the fans, the millions who had watched her from afar, growing up, with her on screen. Their messages flooded Twitter, Instagram, Reddit, and fan forums. They shared stories of watching Harriet the Spy on repeat, of seeing themselves in Dawn Summers, of dressing up as Georgina Sparks for Halloween, of crying. At moments they hadn't realized Michelle had made so powerful until now. Her IMDb page lit up with new reviews. YouTube was filled with fan edits. Old interviews resurfaced, clips where Michelle laughed, rolled her eyes, or smiled shyly after finishing a sentence. Even those who hadn't thought about her work in years suddenly felt the sharp sting of grief. Because with Michelle gone, something in us felt gone too. Despite being in the spotlight from childhood, Michelle Trachtenberg remained remarkably private. She never became tabloid fodder. She never capitalized on scandal. She kept her personal life personal, a feat in an era of oversharing and manufactured personas. What little we do know reveals a life marked by quiet consistency, loyalty, and love. She was raised in Sheepshead Bay, Brooklyn, by Jewish immigrant parents. Her mother, Lana, was a bank manager. Her father, Michael, worked in fiber optics. Michelle often credited her family with keeping her grounded, especially during the chaotic years of child stardom. She also had an older sister, Irene, who remained close to her throughout her life. When Michelle moved to Los Angeles to further her acting career, she enrolled at Notre Dame High School. Though she was already a working actress with a blossoming career, she still showed up to class, took notes, and tried to live some semblance of a normal teenage life. Teachers reportedly described her as focused and polite, if understandably a bit tired. She never married but found lasting companionship with Jay Cohen, a Hollywood talent agent and producer. The two were first linked in 2020 and stayed together until her death. Jay, who worked with Gersh, one of the industry's major agencies, wasn't a flashy red carpet regular, and neither was Michelle. Their relationship stayed mostly out of public view. No splashy headlines. No attention-seeking interviews. But those who knew them say Jay was one of Michelle's greatest sources of support during her final years, especially as her health began to decline. He had 2 daughters of his own, and Michelle was reportedly close to both. Whether she ever intended to start a family of her own, we may never know. But by all accounts, she nurtured a quiet, meaningful life outside the cameras. She also maintained friendships from all corners of her life. Former co-stars spoke of her kindness on set, her professionalism, her dry sense of humor. She wasn't known for parties or paparazzi runs. Instead, she was remembered for editing her own scenes to perfection, for rehearsing in solitude, for texting friends long after filming wrapped. And behind all of that was a deep love for her craft. Even as her screen appearances became less frequent, she remained connected to the industry, not for the fame, but because storytelling was part of who she was. In the final year of her life, Michelle's appearance began to change. Fans noticed the weight loss, the gaunt look, the distant gaze in her photos. Many speculated, some offered support, and too many criticized without knowing what she was really going through. Michelle responded with defiance. "Explain to me how I look sick," she wrote in January 2025. "Did you lose a calendar and not realize I'm not 14? I'm 38. What fans didn't know at the time was that Michelle had recently undergone a liver transplant, a major medical procedure that comes with enormous physical and emotional challenges. There were reports she had shared her health struggles with close friends, that she was really, really sick, and that she was emotionally worn down from it all. Still, she insisted she was happy and healthy. Still, she smiled for the camera. That resilience, the refusal to be defined by pity, was so quintessentially Michelle. She didn't want sympathy. She wanted dignity. She wanted to keep some part of her life for herself, even after giving so much of it to the world. And when her body finally gave out, she left in the same quiet way she had lived, without spectacle, without warning, but with a legacy that echoes far louder than any headline. Michelle Trachtenberg's passing leaves behind a void, not just in Hollywood, but in the hearts of the many who grew up with her, laughed with her, and leaned on her performances. Like a soft place to land during uncertain years, she also leaves behind a body of work that spans 3 decades and crosses genres, age groups, and formats. From Harriet the Spy to Gossip Girl, her roles told stories that mattered. Not always flashy, not always perfect, but true. Financially, she left an estate estimated at $6 or $7 million, including a longtime Sherman Oaks home and royalties from her film and television work. But the most valuable thing she left was her imprint, on characters, on stories, on people. Her family, Mother Lana, sister Irene, and partner Jay Cohen, have not released many public details about memorials or estate plans. Perhaps like Michelle, they prefer to grieve quietly, without the world watching.